Paltrocast.
Are you a Roddy to everybody, or are you Rod once they get to know you? What's the hierarchy of the nickname?
Roddy's fine. My given name is Roderick. So
I mean, they're both cool, but anyway, are you ready for a bunch of compliments, Roddy?
oh, sure, always.
Okay. Well, as a person
Thanks,
who's
Darren.
worked in and out of the music industry for a couple of decades, I know that Pink Floyd is not one of the easiest bands to work on. There's at least three camps to go between with everything. Yet, the trailer to your movie is on the official Pink Floyd YouTube channel. So you managed to bridge the gap like very few could, like Syd probably could. So, what was the hardest part for you in getting this whole documentary together?
Well, that's one of them for sure. Absolutely. It's a minefield. Um, but I had done this film on Storm called "Taken by Storm: The Art of Storm Thorgerson and Hypnosis." So I'd already sort of been dealing with the constellation of people for permission, and everybody liked my film on Storm. And Storm's involvement in the Sid film, I think, was also helpful. But I think it brought up a lot of emotions for everybody. So I think that they were fine to kind of revisit it in a way. That's always the first question: how the hell did this film get made? For sure. It
Yeah.
was not. It was kind of easy in some way. I don't know. We felt very lucky. Everyone was super generous, super supportive. You're absolutely right. They gave me all the music that I wanted. All the archival clips, uh, every photo we went after, except for maybe two photos from estates that wanted $10,000 a piece or something like that.
Did
But
Neil Slozower do that to you?
I don't recall. Yeah, but we were very fortunate, I think, and I think timing wise, maybe, it hit at a right moment, but I feel very lucky that it got made. Could have been killed maybe at any moment. We don't know. We didn't know.
Right. So the Syd Barrett story is one that kind of everyone thinks that they know, but the reality is from seeing this documentary, they don't know the full story. And by getting everyone's participation, you told a great, complex, concise version of the story. But how much of this did you know before you started making the film?
I knew some of the stuff around Sid. I'd been in a band and the bass player loved early Pink Floyd stuff. I mean, later Pink Floyd stuff too, but we would try and learn songs from Piper at the Gates of Dawn and we couldn't do
Wow.
it. But so I knew a bit about, the story, but I think more the general stuff. But when Storm and I started talking about potentially doing this film, I got the three main biographies, I got all the DVDs and the stuff. And so I went back and looked, at all the stuff. And probably the most interesting thing for me was I really listened to the music much more carefully than I ever had. And Sid's guitar playing and inventiveness completely surprised me. I mean, it was fascinating to really study it like that in terms of the editing. But so I knew the general stories. I knew, the Shine on You Crazy Diamond Abbey Road story.
Mhm.
I knew the story about him walking home and certain things, but definitely hearing it firsthand from everybody that's in the movie was quite interesting. Because it did reveal, like you said, you're totally right on that it's a complex story. He was a person. He was not, just this figure. I think the fact that nobody knew exactly what happened, they projected a lot onto his story, right?
Yeah.
Everyone could make up their version of his life.
Yeah, they take one bio or press release from one person with an agenda and then they build it onto it like a story of telephone. But again, not what you did. Wonderful to see that there's new information in this that wasn't previously known. So how long was it from starting it to locking it?
Oh gosh. I mean, we started probably the first interviews in about 2011, I want to say.
Wow.
So it was a pretty long process. I mean, there was a couple of things where the film was tied up for a little while, so there was about a year and a half where it was tied up.
Yeah.
But it was pretty long. But I was doing other projects in between, so it wasn't like I was sitting around just crying the whole time. But I do think it was kind of good to let it simmer for that time period, because really the editor and I, you know, I don't know if it's luxurious or torturous or what it was, but having kind of the freedom to really try and shape the story, because it is a complicated story. It is even logistically weird, that he moved back from this place, from Cambridge to London, to Cambridge to
Yeah.
London. So trying to figure out how to even do a timeline took a while. So, it seems like a long time. I joke that Storm got me to work for free for 10 years finally. But really happy that it's done. Really happy that it's seeing, it's getting out into the world.
A unique thing about this story is nowadays, every day an artist is calling off a tour due to mental illness, problems related to emotions. Yet in Syd Barrett's day, it's pretty much him, Peter Green, the guy from Love. There's only like a handful of people who are very out about having breakdowns and things of that nature. Nowadays, do you think that we would be faulting Syd in any way for walking away? Because I don't think the answer is yes to that.
Yeah, and I think you got to think of the time period, right? You're talking mid late 60s in the UK, where mental illness, number one, was really, being treated still in medieval kind of,
Yeah, electroshock therapy.
lecture shock, all this,
Yeah,
I think Peter Green went through electroshock. So you have that element of it, for sure. Um, I think also you combine that with, they were so young, everyone around them, they're in
yeah,
their, we forget that they were in their 20s. And so, if you're in that age and your friends kind of checking out, you're kind of like, yeah, whatever. Uh, and certainly the Floyd was of that era where the bands were just playing incessantly. Their tour schedule was just crazy, sometimes two or three shows a day.
yeah.
Um, and so, and you get a pop hit single and another one and another one. And so I think there wasn't a moment, like you're saying, Darren, where they go like, wait, maybe we should take, a holiday off,
Yeah.
a break. It didn't happen then, for sure. Back then, so even like, it's funny, like even a film like the Metallica one about them going to their therapist, that could not have existed probably back then, for
Oh,
sure.
no. And had that happened in the 80s or 90s, they would have been the laughing stock and done. Yet they pushed the ball forward weirdly with a hired gun therapist who got them making the worst album of their career. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about you and your excellent film, Roddy. And another thing, while you were making this film, was that there were rumors that Johnny Depp was going to play Syd Barrett in a biopic. Was that something that was on your radar when you were making this?
I've heard that story. In fact, I've heard that he was trying to develop a script, something like 15, 20 years ago. So, considering his new life in the Hollywood vampires, maybe we can confirm it informally. But yeah, there was a couple of scripts kicking around that I've heard. One of which was a Johnny Depp project. Yeah, I'm hoping Johnny Depp will see the film. I know he's a Syd Barrett fan, so I'm curious to see what
Yeah.
he thinks of it.
I think it's more musicians who are fans than not at this point. When you look at Blur, etc., people who have possibly participated in your film. No spoilers, right there. But the last two questions I've got. The first one is: are we allowed to know what's next from you? Because IMDb lists this as an upcoming film, but obviously it's done aside from doing the press.
Yeah. I've got a few things kicking around. I mean, I've made narrative films, fictional scripts. I've done more sort of personal films. I mean, I kind of fell into these two films back to back because of Storm's Vortex. But I've got a couple of music projects kicking around. I'm
Hmm.
not, maybe music was always a big part of my life, and it's nice that they've
Yeah.
dovetailed. So it's really, for me, it depends which one materializes in terms of funding, and et cetera. So, I don't know yet. Uh,
Don't know yet.
I probably will not. I am on holiday now, but I probably won't take a long holiday though.
Got it. Well, whatever that is, I look forward to whatever's coming next. And my last question has nothing to do with anything, except, this film is about Pink Floyd. And usually when you make a documentary about a film, about an artist, a musician or something like that, as much as you love them, you can't listen to them the same way due to the amount of time you spent on that kind of project. So now, what music is your go-to for the most part, or what gets you through all this?
Oh, through post doing this film.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
well, so let
you
me
know,
give you an example. I just
yes.
wrote a book that's coming out in early next year about David Lee Roth. I can't exactly listen to a lot of Van Halen right now. It's a little cuts a little too close. In your case, there can't be a lot of Floyd. So what are you listening to at the moment?
I mean, always lots of different stuff. The interesting thing was that when I was editing the film, when I would be working on a section, whether it was 5 minutes in or 20 minutes in or 40 minutes in, I would end up watching the whole cut all the way through, which was very
Unique.
strange for me,
Yeah.
very, very bizarre, like no matter where I was. And so, in fact, I didn't get tired of any of it, which is most of the time in my films, like you're saying with your book, I do get fatigued and I'm like, like I'm done. But, something with this film, I mean, maybe because of the emotional component to it, I get drawn in, and it's weird to say that about your own kind of thing, but strangely more than my other films, I would just get locked in and I would end up watching it. But I listen to all kinds of different types of music. What was I listening? I mean, I was emailing with Andrew Van Wingarden from MGMT the other day, and I was listening to MGMT in the car
Oh yeah.
just the other day. Um, so lots of different stuff. I really and I was listening to some Pink Floyd the other day too. Strangely enough, just sitting at home, and I put some on. So everything. I was listening to Bush Tetras the other day. Like lots of different stuff. So
Wow. Okay. That answer surprises me. But Roddy, thank you for your time. Congrats on this film. Really looking forward to what's next. Whether it's about a Warhol type, a Joe Strummer type, none of the above, whatever it is, thank you for your many years of great art.
great. Thanks, Darren.
Paltrocast.